So we're having a look at our devotions this week through Luke chapter 21. It's a moment where Jesus sets aside significant time to teach about the future. He does two things, teaches about two moments, if you like. The first moment he taught about was 37 years in advance of where he was at that moment in his future. It was the destruction of Jerusalem, the destruction of the temple, an inconceivable concept for those who were originally listening. But Jesus deliberately predicted that event within their own lifespan to give confidence about the second moment he predicts, which hasn't yet happened, but is about the great return of Jesus himself, the bringing of his redemption, the bringing of his kingdom into our world. Right the way through the Bible, we have this promise, a promise that is both full of joy and full of warning, that Jesus is going to come back. That will happen. And when he comes back, he's going to return everything to how it should be. Justice will be brought, compassion and love will be brought, his name will be praised by everyone. We're told elsewhere, Philippians 2, for example, that every knee will bow and every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. And some will do that with joy and delight, voluntarily, because they've trusted Jesus, and others are going to be forced to do it by violent force. He is going to make them declare him king, and they're going to submit to him in surrender, and they'll do it out of terror and fear. So Jesus has predicted the first event, which we know happened in history, so we can be confident of the second event that we are waiting to happen. What I want us just to think about this morning for a moment is how we might respond to that. And Jesus gives us the answer. He doesn't leave us wondering about the kind of appropriate reaction or response that we should make. It's twofold, or maybe it describes two sorts of people. The first is in sentence 26. It says, at that moment when Jesus comes back, it says, people will faint from terror, apprehensive of what is coming onto the world. Now, I have never seen someone or myself faint from terror. I cannot quite imagine the level of fear someone would have to experience for their body literally to close down and them to fall unconscious. But Jesus, the most loving man in the world, is saying for those who have not trusted him, for those who will not greet him as a friend, then when they see him, the terror of seeing him will be so great, their body will physically stop functioning. They will faint from terror and apprehension of what is coming when they see him. Now that's quite something, isn't it? Now, some of you might say, Alex, you're just trying to scare us here. Alex, you're just trying to scare me because I don't have a living, trusting relationship with Jesus, or you're trying to scare me about people I love. Now, I want to reassure you that actually I am, because I think Jesus is scaring us here. And while I feel confident to just acknowledge that I think fear and worry is an appropriate response, is because I am frightened for my family who don't trust Jesus, which is basically all of my extended family outside of Hannah and our boys. That if Jesus were to come back like he describes he definitely will, this afternoon, tomorrow, for my family who I love more greatly than anyone else in this world, they would faint in absolute terror at the experience of seeing Jesus. So I am trying to scare you because I think this is really, really scary and frightening. If there was a loose, ravaged tiger roaming round your house, and I came in, and the best I could do to warn you about that was to talk in the language of a pet kitten, and allow you to stroll into that room where that savage beast was, unprepared and unaware, there would be no love in my heart, and no love in Jesus' heart if he did that. So the first reaction is that some people will faint with absolute terror because they'll meet him as judge and warrior. But the second reaction to the very same Jesus that we're told is in sentence 28. And that says, when these things begin to take place, you will stand up and lift your heads because your redemption has come. It's incredibly different, isn't it? One group of people are fallen unconscious in terror on the floor, while standing right next to them, looking at the same Jesus, are people who are able to stand up. maybe for the very first time realize what it means to walk with your head held high and lift your heads towards Jesus. Not bow in submission, not fall unconscious on the ground, but lift your heads and look him in the eye. Because for those who have trusted Jesus and welcomed him as a friend, it's not meeting our judge, but it's greeting our Saviour and our Redeemer. And the word here is, your redemption has drawn near. That word redemption has the idea of being ransomed when you've been kidnapped, being set free from what has held you captive. It's not difficult for us to imagine someone who has been captive, held prisoner, and then perhaps the Special Forces rescue team break into the camp where they are, defeat all those kidnappers, and smash through the door where you've been held. At that moment, maybe for the first time in a long time, you're going to be able to stand on your feet and you're going to look your saviours and rescuers in the eye because they have redeemed you and rescued you. That is wonderful. So my question is, because Jesus doesn't change, it's the same Jesus. My question is, where are you when it comes to your relationship with Jesus? When he comes back in all of this power and glory and might and ferocity and fear and love and compassion, are you going to faint in fear and terror? Or are you going to be able to stand up and lift your head and look your Saviour in the eye?